Aloha and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to discuss the filming locations that were used in episode number 12. The title is Thicker Than Blood and it aired on February 26th, 1981. Now this one took quite a while to get sorted out, but I believe I've identified nearly every single location in this episode. So without further delay, let's get started. All right, so here's an overview of the island with this episode's various filming locations. Looks like they shot quite a bit down here on the south side of the island, and then just a little bit up here to the north at the beginning of the episode. But the episode starts off, we see a nighttime shot of a freighter that's out at sea. Now this, I'm fairly certain, is just stock footage, and it's probably something that they reused from Hawaii Five-0. I haven't verified that, but that's probably what it is. And we also see TC flying at night. He's flying out to that ship, and this is also stock footage. This is the Island Hoppers helicopter that had the tragic accident when they were filming episode number 6, Skin Deep. And as TC's flying, he's paying special attention to his fuel gauge. In the episode, the ship is it's supposed to be 250 to 300 nautical miles to the southwest of Oahu. So he's way out there, way beyond his fuel range, and we can see that he's just about to run out of fuel. And just as he's about to run out of fuel, the ship's crew, they can hear him coming, and they kick on the ship's lighting, and he's able to land safely on board the vessel. Now, this ship, it is not out at sea, and I will cover the location of this ship a little later in this video. But he gets out of the helicopter and he sees that they're using hand pumps to refuel the helicopter. But the hand pumps, it's going to take a long time, and he's concerned that the sun's going to be up by the time he gets airborne again. And he's afraid that the Coast Guard is going to spot him on his way back to Oahu. He goes into the ship and he makes his concerns known to the captain. And then Renard here, he offers to take TC down to meet Joey. He's flown out there to pick up Joey. Joey is someone that he served with in Vietnam, and he's going to fly him back to Oahu. And they take him down to Joey's quarters. Joey wakes up from a nap. We learn that Joey, at some point, he deserted his unit while in Vietnam. We also learned that while serving with TC, at some point he saved TC's life. TC was involved in a helicopter crash, and Joey, he pulled him out of the burning helicopter. So TC, he's repaying this favor to Joey. He's going to fly him again. He's going to fly him back to the States. We also learned that Joey, he's a heroin addict, and TC said that, I won't fly you back unless you're clean. So he's checking Joey out to make sure that he is clean, and he determines that he is, and says, "All right, let's go." And they head up topside to launch and head back to the States. And that is where we get our title screen. They both climb on board the helicopter, and they lift off from the ship, heading towards Oahu. Now, shortly after they lift off, we get this shady scene. We see the captain and Renard here. Renard's telling the captain to send a distress signal to the Coast Guard with a location that's right directly in line with their their flight path from the ship back to Oahu. Right there. It says send that distress signal in about an hour. And then we get some more footage of TC and Joey flying at night towards Oahu. As they're flying along, TC he tries to talk some sense into Joey. He says, "Hey, it's been a long time since Vietnam and since you deserted. Why don't you turn yourself in and try and put this behind you?" And Joey he starts to panic and says that he won't do it, and that he'll jump out of the helicopter if TC's going to turn him in. And TC he decides to just let it go. Tells Joey that he'll get him home. Next, we get this location, which I will cover a little bit later in this video. But we in this scene, the ship's captain he's calling in this fake vessel in distress call to the Coast Guard, and they decide to launch a search and rescue aircraft to look for this vessel. And then we get back to TC. We see the sun's up. They're still flying towards Oahu, and as they're doing so, they spot that Coast Guard C-130 search and rescue aircraft, and they're hoping that it didn't spot them. However, we see inside the cockpit, we see the crew calling back to the air station, letting them know that they can't find this vessel in distress. However, they spotted TC's helicopter low on the deck, heading towards Oahu, and they think it looks pretty suspicious. So these guys they launch a helicopter to try and intercept TC and figure out what he's up to. And TC he spots the helicopter coming towards them, and it swings around and it pulls up right next to them. Now, before I go any further, I just want to bring this to everyone's attention because I wasn't aware of this. This exact Coast Guard Sikorsky helicopter, ship 1420, was involved in a tragic accident just 11 months after filming this episode of Magnum. On the early morning of January 7th, 1982, ship 1420, they launched from Barbers Point, responding to a vessel in distress call just off of Molokai. And about an hour after launching, they got out into some bad weather, and sadly they crashed into a cliffside on Molokai, and all three service members were killed instantly. Lieutenant Commander Horton Johnson, Lieutenant Colleen Kane, and AD2 David Thompson. And I don't know if these three individuals, were involved in the taping, the production of this episode of Magnum. So if anyone is familiar with this, anyone knows, please comment below. But yeah, I just want to take a moment and just highlight these three service members and this helicopter and kind of their service and their sacrifice that they made. They try to communicate with TC. He pretends that he can't hear them, and they give him some hand signals, tell him to fall in line and follow them, and which he does. And now we can kind of start to jump down and match some of this up. So in this frame, they're right along here, flying that way, and he follows them in closer to shore, and then as they get to shore, he brakes hard away from them at this location here. The helicopter, it banks and tries to chase him down. And then he cuts, TC cuts back underneath them right here. And he flies around in this general area for just a bit, trying to shake them. And then he sets down right in this area, somewhere in here. Pretty tough to pinpoint the exact location, but this is the general area in which he sets down. And it might actually be right here. This is an old airstrip, and maybe an old apron parking area, and it almost looks like that might be where he's setting it down. But he tries to get Joey to turn himself in one last time, and Joey says, I was only brave enough to be a man one time, and one time only, and that was when I pulled you out of that helicopter. And then he jumps out of the helicopter and he runs off into the woods, into the vegetation, somewhere around here. And then TC, he looks up at ship 1420 up there, and he says to himself, he says, "All right, hotshot, let's see what you're made of." And then he starts to lift off, and he's nose to nose with a Cobra gunship, and he is busted. From there, we get just a really, really quick establishing shot of the guest house back at the estate, and then it cuts to the interior of the guest house inside Tom's bedroom. There's a little cassette player on his pillow that his friend Sarah left, and he picks that up and he listens to about half of it, and then he goes out for a morning swim in the tidal pool back at the estate, and then he's back in the guest house, finishes listening to the little cassette player. His friend Sarah is a bit of a health nut, and she wants him to make some concoction to drink for breakfast. So he starts to put that together. And while he's doing that, Rick shows up, comes down, and he tells Tom that TC, he got busted smuggling someone onto the island, and that he's been arrested and that his helicopter's been impounded. Next, we get this really brief scene with Joey, and this scene, it would have been filmed up here near the Pua'ena Point Beach Park, that same general area where TC dropped Joey off. We see that Joey is, in fact, not clean, and he is, sadly, he's still using. Next, we see Tom and Rick. They're on their way to talk to TC. They're trying to figure out what's going on here. And this next scene, it was filmed at Coast Guard Air Station Barbers Point. And this entire next scene was filmed in front of this building here and inside of this building. And actually, quite a bit of this episode was filmed at Barbers Point. Later on in the episode, we have another scene that's filmed inside of this building, and then another scene that was filmed just outside of this building right here. But in this scene, we see them. Let me drop down here and we'll match this up. We see them come right along here, and then they park in one of these stalls right there. Take a look at that. They jump out of the Ferrari and they start to make their way towards this main entryway here. And let's see real quick before we look at that. I can turn around and I can match this up behind them. These two buildings there look exactly the same. probably some sort of base housing, I'm guessing. But back to this entryway, we see the Coast Guard and a federal marshal leading TC out of this entryway here. Real quick, before I go forward, just want to talk about some bizarre casting that took place in this episode. This guy playing the federal marshal, his name was Michael Spilatro, and in real life, he was the brother of Las Vegas mafia boss Anthony Spilatro. So the fact that he ended up in an episode of Magnum PI playing a federal marshal is kind of crazy. The backstory is that Larry Minetti grew up with him in Chicago, and Larry he even talks about it in his book. Grew up with him, and that's kind of how he got into this episode. But TC he's really short with Tom and Rick. He doesn't want to talk to them, doesn't want anything to do with them, just wants to be taken away. And ultimately, what he's trying to do, he's trying to protect them. He doesn't want them involved in this in any way, shape, or form, because he doesn't want them to become accessories to the crime. And they're completely dumbfounded. They don't know why he won't talk to them, and they take him away. Now this Coast Guard lieutenant, I think it's Porter, he says, it looks like you two can use a cup of coffee. And he invites them up into the operations center to talk about the situation. And they head up the stairs here and into the building. I think they go up that way. But they get up into this is the real, Barbers Point Operations Center. I'm assuming that it is, in fact, in this portion of this building somewhere. And he talks about, where TC was in his helicopter. Tells them that, he, in order to be where he was, he had to have refueled out at sea on a ship. There's just no other way he could have been there. And then Neil, the Coast Guard helicopter pilot, he starts to talk about how, TC almost lost him, and that TC had dropped off some guy that looked really nervous, down in the vegetation, and that individual got away. And then they head over to Porter, and they Magnum. He wants to know how exactly did you spot him? Was it a routine inspection? Was it a tip? And Porter says, yeah, it was kind of more than anything. It was just dumb luck. We were out there searching for this completely unrelated vessel in distress, and we just happened to come across TC in his helicopter. And then Tom says, did you, asks if they ever found that other vessel. And Porter says, no, we never found it. We're still searching. And then Tom says, probably because that vessel in distress wasn't even there. From there, we see that Joey, he's hitched a ride, heading to the airport. And in this frame, they're in this blue Chevy pickup here. And they're on Highway 1 in this frame. And then it transitions to the close-ups of their conversation. And this conversation, it starts off with this guy saying, it's getting crowded these days. And boy, if he could see it now. But as they drive along, Joey, he changes his mind and decides he just wants to go into town. And this guy says, no problem. And then we get this shot where they're, I believe they're on the Kalanianiole Highway over on the east side of the island. And then they get this parting shot where they're back on Highway 1. And it's the same exact location, just the camera, it tracked them as they drove past. And then, that same exact spot right there. The next scene, it starts with this really neat shot of this waterfall that's inside of the Hyatt Regency Waikiki Beach. And that waterfall is right right there. And you can see the waterfall there. And after this kind of opening shot of the waterfall, we see Mac up here on this observation platform deck area here at a bar. Take a look at that. Again, I think they're right in here somewhere. And he's up there enjoying his day. He's having a conversation with this lady. And as they're having this conversation, Mac says something derogatory about pilots and how they're soon going to be obsolete. And then this Marine Corps pilot leans forward and stares him down. And he turns back the other way to find a Magnum sitting there next to him. Magnum, he starts in with some small talk, asks Mac how his day's going, and then he sprinkles in a question about a spy satellite that Mac has access to. And Mac, he instantly realizes that Tom's up to something. So he hops up and he starts to walk along this way here. Let's see here, yeah. So yeah, you can see that swimming pool there back behind them. And as they're walking along, Tom's trying to, he tells him that he needs the name of a freighter or some type of ship that was out in the area that TC flew to, where TC could have refueled. Mac's like, no way. This satellite's top secret. I'm not telling you anything. And then now this one I can actually, let's see here. I think I can match this one up a little bit here. Yeah, so let's see. So these two are standing basically where this photo was taken. You can see these pillars, these columns back behind Tom, right there, right there. Tom, he explains that he's got a buddy in trouble and he really needs to help him. Tom says, I'm not looking for any military secrets. I just want the name of this ship. He said, I can get the name from the shipping companies, but it's just going to take too long. And then Mac, he takes off, still doesn't agree to do it. Let's see, I can kind of match this one up too. Drop down here. So yeah, in this frame, they're walking across this catwalk here, and then they wrap around here. It looks like they turn off that fountain when they decorate for the holidays. But yeah, that fountain, that waterfall would have been right here. But they continue walking along here out of frame. And then the camera pushes in on that waterfall. From there, we see that Mac has provided the photo of the ship to Tom, and they're back at the estate. And Higgins, he's developing the photos, and Tom, he's very interested in the name of the ship. Higgins, he has to resize the photo to enlarge the name of the ship, and before he does so, he wants Magnum to give up some estate privilege for the name of the ship. And Tom, he says, I'll move out. He says, I'll move out. Will Sunday be soon enough for you? He says, just give me the name of that ship. I need it as soon as possible. And Higgins, he's very confused, doesn't know what's going on. And again, this is just the dark room was a set that they built inside the studio here. Next, we see that Tom, he's located the ship, and he's waiting for it. He was waiting for it when it docked, and this was actually filmed at Pearl Harbor. And initially, I was certain that this had been filmed at the Honolulu harbor, until I saw this. After about the 30th time watching this scene, I spotted this on this forklift. It says USN, United States Navy. So I started to search Pearl, and sure enough, that's where it's at. And to give you an idea, a better idea as to where it's at, it is located directly across from the Arizona Memorial. Pretty cool. But yeah, in this satellite photo, you got another freighter here. Um, in this scene, the freighter is here, but we see Tom. He is standing about right there in this frame. He's watching the ship as it clears customs. His plan is to sneak on the ship once it's completed its customs check, and search for some clues. While he's waiting, he gets a phone call. This little prop phone booth was right there. He gets a phone call from Rick, and Rick's at the courthouse with TC, and he tells Tom that TC pled guilty, and that they're going to throw the book at him. They're gonna auction off his helicopter. This isn't a courthouse. This is also at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, and I can show you where this is at. So it is somewhere down in one of these two lobbies. There's a lobby on this side of the hotel, and then there's down that way. There's kind of an identical one. So it was shot in one of these lobbies. The dead giveaway is kind of the ceiling here with the lighting up in there. You can barely make it out there. Let's see here. Go back to Pearl Harbor. But Tom, he tells Rick to watch TC, keep an eye on him, and that he's going to join the Union. And then he hangs up. Customs, they leave the ship. He takes his shirt off, throws on a bandana, and he jumps in and he starts working with the longshoreman. And I can kind of go down and match this up a little bit. So you can kind of, it's not far enough that way to really match things up, but you get the idea. But he works with the longshoreman until lunchtime, and then they break for lunch, and that's when he takes his opportunity to make his way down the pier here. And you can even you can see how they used to have this rail line along the pier. You can still see where those rails were right there. It's been resurfaced a few times probably over the years, but I thought that was pretty cool that you can still see those. But Tommy makes his way down here and discreetly makes his way onto the ship, starts to poke around. This guy catches him and he plays dumb, says he's just looking for a bathroom, and he tells him to get off the ship, but he doesn't. He makes his way to the captain's quarters and he starts to pick the lock. As he's doing so, he hears the captain and Renard coming towards the captain's quarters, and he gets in just in the nick of time. They open the door, but at the last minute they decide to not enter the captain's quarters, and they go to Renard's quarters for a drink. And then Tom, he continues searching around, and he finds a map. You can see there's a big smudge mark right where the Coast Guard found TC. And then he keeps searching, and he finds a ship log, and he sees that a seaman, Joseph Santino, was lost at sea, or Joey, and he instantly recognizes that name, instantly understands why TC flew out to this ship, and he knows who and why he brought him back to Oahu. Now, right about now, the captain walks in, and he busts Tom, and it's kind of funny. Tom, he says, "Oh, you're not going to believe this," and then he just bolts out of the room, and he takes off. Renard comes out and takes a shot at him, misses, and Tom, he makes his way out back to the pier and starts to run along the pier, and he's screaming for the other longshoremen to come help him, which they're more than willing to do, and it kind of matched that up a little bit, something like that. And then he makes his way out of there. The longshoremen go up, and they start to have a brawl with the crew of the ship. And then Tom goes back, and he quits. He quits the Union. And then these two, the captain and Renard, they watch the fight. From there, we get this scene. We see that TC, he's back at Island Hoppers, packing up shop, because he's going to, one way or another, he's going away. And all the little kids in here, they are all super bummed out. And this next scene here, it was also shot at Barber's Point, inside of this building right here. And just to give you an idea as to where this is at, I kind of referenced it a little earlier. So this is the building that Rick and Tom went to earlier in the episode to meet up with TC, right here. And then this Island Hoppers building, it was right back here inside of this building. And when they shot this scene, these are roll-up doors. They had this one open when they shot this scene, and it's been built onto over the years. And so this window right here would have been about right there, and it's been removed or built over the years. But yeah, TC, he's in there. He's packing up shop and trying to explain things to the boys. They're all really sad. And in this shot here, you're seeing, so TC would have been just inside here, and you're seeing this roll-up door right there, as well as there's a personnel door right there. So yeah, roll-up door, personnel door right there. And then you get a better shot of that door right there in the windows here. And he's telling them that he did something wrong, and he's got to pay the price for it. And finally, he can't take it anymore, so he runs them all off. And then we see Tom. There's a little office over here that he comes out of. And so yeah, that office would have been on this side of the building here. And he comes out of the office and starts walking towards TC. And then we see TC on the other side of the building. So on this side, just so that window right there is that window there. And then that personnel door is that personnel door. And then you can tell that this roll-up door that's right just over here is open. And he keeps packing things up, and Tom, he tells TC that, I understand why you did this, and just, explain it to the judge, and they'll take it all into consideration. And TC, he says, no, you if I do that, that's gonna kill Joey. He can't handle prison, and then he says, I'm getting out of here. And Tom says, you're not skipping bail, and he stops him. And TC says, I understand what you're trying to do for me, but I'm not going to jail. And he gives Tom his team ring. Tom says, no, I'm not going to let you go. He takes off his shirt, and then the brawl ensues. And they start to fight. Yeah, you can see the shadow right here from this roll up door that's open. And they start. I always hated this scene as a kid. I didn't like watching Tom and TC fight. And in fact, back here in the window, when the window was there, you can actually. There's a giant. I think it's like an army depot, way back there, and you can see. You can see that giant hangar that they've got back there. This is that Army Depot hangar right there that you're seeing here. But as they're fighting, Rick, he shows up. He comes in and he starts to try and stop them, which is kind of comical. And he's trying to break it up, and then the phone rings, and he picks it up, and it's Joey on the other line. So he starts screaming for TC that he's got a phone call. These two, they're just about to kill each other, and they both stop. They both slide down on the floor. TC, he takes the phone call, and again, it's Joey. You can tell he's overdosing. He's telling TC, he's confessing. He says he's sorry and that he's not clean, and TC's like, just tell us where you're at. We'll come help you. And then Joey, he drops the phone, and he goes into his room, stumbles into his room. Next, we see Tom, TC, and Rick. They've all piled into the Ferrari. Rick, through his phone company connections, he was able to trace Joey's phone call, so they're on their way to Joey's place to try and help him. And in this frame, we see them driving along Kalakaua Avenue, and then after they turn off of Kalakaua, we see them over on Montserrat Avenue. See them driving along Montserrat Avenue here, and then they arrive. Another shot on Montserrat, and then they arrive on Prince Edward Street. We'll go there. Prince Edward Street, just right down here. Let's see. And I'll kind of match this up. You can see the hotel back there, and then that building there. And then this, what used to be the Blue Shell Hotel Apartments, right here, which is something else today. And then we see them continue down Prince Edward Street, and then they turn in about right here to the room or the apartment or hotel that Joey was staying in. Right here, looks like it was 2426. Prince Edward Street. It was in rough shape back then, so I'm not surprised that it's not there anymore. But they hop out of the Ferrari and they make their way up to the front door. And then, yeah, if you look behind this motel, whatever it was, you can see this. You can see these apartments or hotel back there behind it. And now it looks like it's a recreation. The footprint of this building is now a recreation spot for either that building or one of the surrounding buildings. From there, we see them inside of Joey's room. They go in there and they try to wake him up. And this was not that building on Prince Edward Street. This is just a set inside of the stage here. They get him up onto the bed. They've called for an ambulance, and the ambulance arrives. Tom, he starts to check the room and finds a big bag of drugs there. And TC, he's upset, because he was not going to sneak Joey onto the island if he wasn't clean, and he's clearly not. And then Tom, he starts to realize that it was this Renard fellow that sent the vessel in distress call so that TC would get caught by the Coast Guard on his way back to the island. And TC's like, why would they want me? And Tom says, well, I don't think it was so much you, but your helicopter. From there, it immediately cuts to TC's helicopter being auctioned off. And this was filmed on Ford Island, just outside of the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. And if you look on the apron here, you can see these yellow spots. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure what these are, if they're like reinforced tie downs or what. I'll have to look at those next time I'm there. But those two yellow marks are right here and here. And in this frame, TC's helicopter is right there, next to that one there. And then as the auction is taking place, we see Porter, Tom, Rick, and TC. They're sitting there watching the auction. And TC, he says something like, I can't stand watching my bird on the auction block or something like that. But they try to portray them as being over here somewhere watching the auction. But that's not where they're at. They are back at Barber's Point, and they are parked. Let's see here. They are parked right here, right next to this building. You can see these windows here. This is a roll-up door here, and then you can see a personnel door right there. And I'm not really sure why they shot this little scene at Barber's Point. Obviously, it worked out better for whatever reason. But Porter here, he now understands what's happening. They filled him in, and he says, okay, if what you're telling me is true, and these guys, they snuck the drugs onto your helicopter without you knowing, odds are you're going to get your helicopter back, and this is going to work out for you. And then the auction ends, and then they push TC's helicopter into a hangar, and it was again, this was back on Ford Island. The auction took place up here, and then in this scene, this frame here, we see them pushing TC's helicopter into what used to be hangar number 6. It's no longer there. It was demolished in 1985, but you can still see the outline right here of hangar number 6. And then you can see this other hangar here in the distance. Let's see, I think it's hangar 54. But they push it into the hangar, and this hangar, this was one of the during the attack on Pearl Harbor. This was one of the first hangars that was hit during the attack. And to give you an idea as to what that looked like, that is hangar number 6 right there. This is hangar number 54 over here. And yeah, in this frame here, TC's helicopter is right inside the hangar, right there. And yeah, you can see how badly damaged that hangar was. But they rebuilt it, and then for whatever reason, tore it down in '85, which is kind of surprising due to the historical significance, of that hangar. Yeah, it's kind of surprising that it's not there anymore. But they push it in, and this guy, he reaches in, and he finds the drugs. And there are a lot of people that have issues with this episode for this very reason, and I get it. The Coast Guard, they would have searched TC's helicopter top to bottom, front to back, and they would have found these drugs. So, yeah, I kind of get why people have a problem with this, but I digress. He pulls out the drugs. He motions to the crew that it's all there. They start to make their way over to the helicopter, and they start offloading its contents. And then, kind of funny, this is John Nordlum. This is Tom Selleck's stand-in and part-time stunt double, and he's playing a bad guy in this episode. Kind of funny. And then we see the federal marshal looking into hangar 6, watching this go down, and then he yells out that they're all under arrest, and they all start to scramble. These two run off to their car. The security forces start to enter into the hangar, and one by one, little by little, they start to round them up. In this shot right here, the Ferrari with Tom, Rick, and TC, they are right there, coming towards the hangar right there. These two try to make a break for it, but Tom cuts them off. They all pile out of the Ferrari, and TC, he grabs Renard, and Tom, he grabs the captain, and the security forces round up the rest of the crew here. And with everyone apprehended, and TC, he starts to yell at Tom. He says, "You know how close you came to hitting my bird?" And starts to go over the helicopter with a fine-tooth comb. And these guys start to crack up because, TC's back to being TC. And from there, we arrive at the final scene of the episode. Rick and TC, they're helping Magnum pack up and move out of the guest house. And Higgins, he comes down just in time to see Tom come out of the bedroom with his gorilla mask that he just found in his closet. Higgins, he's not amused. And then Higgins, he starts to ask about the photos that he developed. He said these were to help TC, weren't they? And Tom's like, "Yep, that's what it was all about." And then Higgins says, "Well, you can't move out until I take inventory of all of Mr. Masters' belongings in the guest house." And then he turns and he heads towards the exit. And Tom's like, oh, no, you don't. He says, you're not going to hold this inventory over me the whole time I live here. He says, you're gonna take the inventory today, or else the deal's off. I'm staying. And Higgins says, well, I guess you'll just have to stay. And he walks out. And then the episode ends. Tom reaches into his pocket. It pushes in, and he turns around and looks at the camera with his Groucho Marx glasses on. And that is a wrap on Thicker Than Blood. The next episode that I cover in this filming location series will be All Roads Lead to Floyd. Hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like and subscribe button. And lastly, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.